Do you know what happens during a buyer's home inspection? Well, that's what we're talking about today, and we're starting right now. Hey everybody, I'm Barney Villa, realtor with Remax of Boulder here in Boulder, Colorado. And if this is your first time on my channel, make sure to subscribe because I post content weekly on all things Boulder and you're not going to want to miss it. Today, we're talking about the home inspection checklist. And if this is your first time buying a home or your first time buying a home in a new state, we're talking about what it is and why you need one. Here are my top 5 tips to have a successful, stress-free home inspection. Tip number 1, always hire a professional. In the state of Colorado, if you are buying a 2,000 to 3,000 square foot home, it's going to cost you anywhere from $300 to $500. And then if you want to add on a sewer scope and a radon test, they're about $100 each as well. So don't worry when you get here, especially if this is the first time in the state. I, as a real estate agent, am required to provide you 3 references. And really the deciding factor is going to come down to timeline, which we're going to discuss in tip number 2. Tip number 2 is to do your inspections as early as possible. Here in Colorado, we usually have about a 30-day window to close, but the way I like to explain to my buyers is you have about 30 days to say no and object for any particular reason. So the very first one is the inspection objection. And there are 3 dates that are very important. One is the inspection termination, one is the inspection objection, and the third one is the inspection resolution. And how that will look on a contract, they will actually be 3 consecutive days in a row. So let's say we go under contract on a Monday. I will usually set the inspection objection for the following Monday, about a week later, and then I will set the objection for the following Tuesday, and then the actual inspection resolution for Wednesday, okay? But just because those are the dates, you need to get them done as soon as possible, because especially if you're in a multiple offer situation, the sellers will look more favorably upon your offer and your terms if you say you're gonna get it done right away. So with that in mind, so let's say you go under contract on a Monday and your inspection objection is not due to the following Monday. Let's get the inspection objection done on Tuesday, get it done on Wednesday, so that way we have time to review it and go over all the details of negotiating to make sure you move forward understanding all of the inspection checklist items. Tip number 3 is what to look for. So this one is not that complicated. The inspector will be there for the duration of the inspection. Most inspectors take about 2 hours to perform the inspection. Sometimes if it's over 3,000 square feet, you can get into more of the 4 hours. But the major things they're looking for are the major things. So when you first bought the house, you loved it because of the granite countertops or the quartz countertops or the beautiful way the windows were laid out or the floor plan. But when it comes to the inspection, you got to look at the big ticket items. And especially when we view the house and we go on a tour of the house first, I'll kind of point some of these items out. But we look for if you can see the roof, and really what you're looking for there is any like curled up little corners and, you know, how are the drains looking? Are they draining properly? And especially on the outside of the house, you want to make sure all the angles are sloping away, because if it's sloping towards it, it can cause a lot of water damage and foundational issues. You're going to want to look at the siding. You're going to want to look at which aspect the house actually faces, because sometimes one side of the house can have more wear and tear from the sun on the siding than others. You want to check out some of the flashing if you can see them. And you really want to, especially from the outside, walk around, take a look at the foundation of the house to make sure everything looks copacetic. Then once you get inside, the inspector is going to look at things like plumbing. He's going to look at the windows. He's going to look at the hot water heater and the furnace and the HVAC, and he's going to look at the AC unit, but only if it's summertime, because in the winter we can't turn them on, excuse me, unless it's 55 degrees out or higher. So some of the other things you're going to want to look for are cracks in the foundation. I always go right to the basement, want to see some concrete walls. If you can't, it's okay. You know, you can usually tell if there's some swelling, and you can tell right away if there's damage from the outside, if there's going to be damage on the inside. As far as the windows go, you want to look and see if there's any they're going to look and see if there's any condensation in there to see if the gap, the seal has actually been broken. The 2 other ones I mentioned in the beginning, as far as radon and sewer, radon just happens to be here in Colorado. It's in everywhere. So if there is a basement, I highly recommend doing a radon. This is actually going to take a couple days after the inspection, so the inspector will leave it at least for 24 to I think like 36 hours, and you'll come back and see if the radon levels are acceptable, and then we'll go over what that means, negotiation if it's not or if it is. And then as far as the sewer scope, this is another one that I look to the age of the house. So if it's built in the 1960s, and you don't see anything on the seller's property report that notes anything that they've done with the sewer, I would definitely recommend having a sewer inspection. Again, it's only about $100, but I'd rather have you know than not know. Okay? So these two things, radon and sewer scoping, can be added in addition to. Again, radon is if there's a basement, and you would do the sewer scope depending on the age of the house, because if it was built 2000 or later, you may not need to do it. It's not old enough yet, to have any issues. Tip number 4 is how to negotiate. And now this can definitely be the most complicated part of this process. So I'm going to try to break it down as simply as possible. So there are 3 ways that we're going to negotiate this, or could possibly negotiate this. Number 1 is to ask for money off the house. I don't recommend this. Number 2 is to ask for the seller to fix the issues. Again, I do not recommend this either, because they don't care for the house as much as you do. They're going to hire the cheapest contractor they can and get it done as cheaply as they possibly can. So number 3 is to ask for seller concessions. And I prefer this method because let's say you have a window, and the window can range anywhere from $500 to $5,000. But let's say that the inspector has said that there is a seal that's broken and the window is letting a huge draft in, and you would like that fixed. So instead of asking him to fix it, I would actually find out the price of how much it would be to install a new window, and let's just call it $1,200. And then what I would do is actually start negotiating with the other side $1,200 for you to do the fix after closing. So again, 3 ways. 1, take it off the price of the house, don't recommend. 2, ask the sellers to fix it, don't recommend. 3, ask for concessions for the amount that it would be to do these fixes, and that is the one that I highly recommend that you do. Tip number 5 is to have your own checklist. And if you don't, that's okay. Right in my description below, you can click on a link and it'll bring you to a PDF document where you'll actually have the best inspection checklist. So during the inspection will probably take, again, 2.5, maybe 3 hours, depending on the size of the home. But I don't recommend that my clients be there for the entire time, kind of breathing down the neck of the inspector. So what I do recommend is showing up in the last 30 minutes to 15 minutes to get kind of a summary where you can bring your checklist and check it with his, and he'll usually tell you kind of things like red light, yellow light, and green light, things that need to be addressed now, things that need to be addressed maybe sometime in the future, and a green light where you're a go on everything. So if you have this checklist, you can kind of compare notes, and you can feel more confident and stress-free moving through your inspection. So that's it. There you have it. My top 5 things to make sure you have an easy and stress-free home inspection. If you like this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, share, and subscribe, because I post content weekly that you're not going to want to miss. And if you are moving here from out of town, make sure to check out my next video on how to buy a house long distance. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.